Hello, everyone. This is Rick with a Cyber Pro podcast where industry leaders share their insights. It's 5 questions in 9 minutes because hackers never sleep. Let's get to it. I have a good friend and a former colleague of mine, David Fontana. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, so I'm David Fontana. Currently, I'm a technical program manager for AWS Security. So what my responsibilities include are setting up the detection program for the corporate infrastructure, not the customer-facing side of the business. So I deal with other teams to kind of project out, what are the current versus future threats and how do we need to sort of build our program out in order to address, current and future threats and prioritize those in the proper way. And then also kind of measure the program for its effectiveness and make any corrections where they need to be made. So.
Nice. And this is your first curveball question. You used to be highly focused in another field in cybersecurity. What was that?
Correct. So I spent a good chunk of time in the incident response space. So doing investigations, and then I had the pleasure to help build out a couple of teams from scratch and prepare the companies that I worked at for providing investigation services. So I got to see a lot of interesting incidents and also participate in that build process, which is really rewarding and challenging at the same time. So
nice. I always like to highlight where people came from because you're doing some awesome stuff with AWS, but I knew you when you were doing the incident response stuff and you were even awesome there. So it's always good to see people that are very, very good at multiple areas. Question number 2-ish, right? What's the best thing about being a cyber professional?
So I guess I have a couple of answers for this. One of them is kind of the more obvious. There's technology is iterating at such a rapid pace that it's never dull. You're constantly being challenged to learn new concepts, new technology, new defense mechanisms. So that part of it is very challenging and it forces you to grow. The other not so obvious one is the people. So I've been in a couple of different industries in my life, and I can say that the collection of people in cybersecurity are some of the most unique, have a great sense of humor, interesting hobbies, and I think it comes from that sort of tinkerer mindset that most of us have. So it's a really interesting space to work in, and especially before working in incident response, it's a really stressful field. So having people around you with these interesting lifestyles and great sense of humor really helps make things interesting.
I love it when we talk about the people in the industry. And speaking of people, colleagues and leaders in the industry are talking about how cybersecurity is a top concern. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so as an analyst, I look at that question and I say, well, why is that? Because it hasn't always been the case. When I started in the field, I think the prevailing mindset was, it's not going to happen to me. I don't have data that people want. My business isn't something that somebody would want to hack. But I think the mindset has shifted because we all know someone at this point that's been a victim of ransomware or a phishing attack of some sort, or the fake IT help desk scam. So now that it's sort of reached everyone from top to bottom, I think that mindset has sort of shifted to say, well, yeah, I can be a victim. So now it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I think that mind shift has helped us all, as a community, focus that proper attention on cybersecurity and address some of the lower hanging fruit at least, and put some more attention where it needs to be for solving the larger problems, and also opening up the budgets to get the proper resources in some of those spaces. So
it's probably the toughest part is opening that wallet up, right? Yeah. Making sure that they're protected. Yep. Question number 4. Here's the meat of the podcast for you. What piece of insight do you want to share with other cyber experts?
Yeah, so this may not be an obvious one, but I have a lot of folks in my network that are just starting out in the industry or have been for a few years. And I've noticed, over the pandemic, people have been, rightfully so, they've been taking a lot of time to go out and get those technical certifications and, up their technical game, which is great. And you should be doing that. But one of the maybe not obvious parts of the game is the soft skills, being able to take an idea and frame it in a very concise way to be able to convey certain problems and solutions to leadership. And this isn't, this is something that not everybody possesses, but I would encourage most people in the industry to work on that because it's an essential part of what we do. As you work in the industry, you're more than likely going to come up against that spot where, as a younger technician in IT and getting into security, there's times where you're like, this sucks. Okay. So to identify that something is bad is step one. But now you have to identify a solution and put some data behind it. What is this going to save me money-wise or efficiency? So being able to frame things in that way, in a very concise way, is a skill that you need to build. So if you want to go back to researching things like building a business case, those are great places to start, and things that are going to really provide value for leadership. And when you can do that, obviously doors open for you that may not have otherwise been there. You're definitely going to set yourself aside out from your peers as well.
So I'm going to add a tack on question to that, because I think this is a really good point. I think we all have gone through a number of technical certifications, myself, yourself included, and I like the soft skill conversation. Now I've come from, like you, I've come from different career paths, and I've learned some of those soft skills, but how do you think leaders can make that an initiative for, especially the technology leaders? How do you think they can make that an initiative?
I think it's just setting the requirement. I had a leader when I was first starting out in IT, and we're solving problems, fixing software and hardware that you've never heard of before. So the easy thing to do is just call out and say, has anyone dealt with this before? What he would always say is, what have you tried? What solutions have you tried? So it's really forcing that issue that makes you go and up that part of your game. So I think for leaders to actually enforce that and expect that out of even junior folks as well, I think that kind of helps foster that mindset within an organization. And also providing some of the tools and maybe some how-to, because some of the folks on the junior side and others may not be exposed to that as much as you are, in the C-suite or on the board level. So understanding some of those techniques would also be very helpful.
Perfect. Now for the fifth and final question, what is your favorite piece of retro technology that just makes you smile?
So I couldn't just pick one, of course.
Perfect.
The bag phone, the Motorola bag phone. It's just funny. I mean, it was great at its time, but now, when I see it and when you talk about it, it brings a smile to people's face. So that's one. And then the other one's not really a technology so much as it is a sound. It's that dial-up noise that everybody knows. And I'm a nostalgic person. I'm into, those sights and sounds and smells and tastes that bring you back to a time and place before. And this is one of those things, and you can try it yourself. I've done it. Sit in your cube, go to YouTube, pull up that sound and go ahead and play it, and just take a look around and see who kind of prairie dogs over the cube, the cue balls to see what's going on. But no, I mean, those are two things that, absolutely make me smile, and I bring them up.
That's amazing. I remember those, the old AOL disc, and you shove it in there and you do the dial-up button, and oh my God, that sound was always a hoot. So great. I love that you brought those to the table. You did it. More than 5 questions in 9 minutes. It was epic having you on, David. Make sure you check out more episodes and insights from the Cyber Pro podcast. My name is Rick. Stay awesome, my friends.
Thank you.